Hello and welcome to Personable, a podcast focused on speaking to the world's best, enabling you to become the best that you can be. My name is HarveyBracken-Smith, and today I'm honoured to be joined by BEAR GRYLLS. BEAR is a British adventurer and former member of the SAS, host of Man vs. Wild, author of The Greatest Story Ever Told, and much more. BEAR has accomplished many amazing things. He's probably lived 10 lifetimes already at this point in his life, but unfortunately we both have something in common. At a very young age, BEAR lost his father, just as I lost my mother, and BEAR's father was his hero. BEAR, how do you use losing a parent as a springboard to success rather than as an excuse to fail?
Gosh, what a question. And I'm sort of so mindful you've been going through such a tough few years. And for you, I think it's 10 times harder than it ever was for me. I think, your family have shouldered so much, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast with you. I don't do a lot of these, but we love you. We love your family. And I think here's what I've learned. I've never met a strong person who's had an easy past. And the things that we often are the hardest things in our life, the things that hit us left field and more than destabilize, they knock us down and they take our feet away from us, and they feel such a storm and so scary at the time and so unfair. Those moments aren't the end. Actually they're often the beginning in our lives. And I just think I meet a lot of young people, and especially through my job as Chief Scout, it's been a great privilege in my life to spend so much time with super motivated young people going out there charging life down. But sometimes when it's all too easy at a young age for people, you kind of fail to learn the real lessons of life, which is about resilience and quiet courage and humility. And your path hasn't been that. Your path has been hard, painful, destabilizing, and I'm sure it's taken your feet away from you at times. But my point is this, is first of all, death is never the end. Your mum is cheering you on. That I know for certain. I mean, total certainty, your mum from the other side is cheering you on and will never leave your shoulder. But this time you've been through won't be the end. This will be the beginning. It will actually be the making of you and your wonderful brothers and your sister. And you're going to do so much in your life. You're going to touch so many people. You're going to soar and complete all of your dreams. But it comes from humble, difficult beginnings. And I actually look at you with huge excitement, because even though you've been through all of this, it's like the dip before the ascent. You really will. You're going to use that pain and use that struggle and use that darkness that you've been through. It's actually going to be the source of your strength and light and purpose and love in your life. So be encouraged is what I would say. And I look back to when I lost my dad, I felt the same. I felt like my world was rocked. I felt ill-equipped. It felt not 5 minutes too early, but a lifetime too early. I just felt like there's so much that wasn't said, and I wish I'd kind of said to him more that what a beautiful dad he was. And thank you for the encouragement. And, he always used to say, listen, what matters in life is not being the best. It's not winning the school awards and that stuff. What matters is being that never give upper and being courageous and kind and doing your best, as the Scouts say, and as a kid growing up, I never realized how valuable those lessons are in a world that tends to value the being the best, stuff. And I never got to say to him, Dad, you're so right. You were so right. And I know now, as a dad of 3 boys, he was absolutely right. Just winning at school means nothing. Has no currency in life. It's meaningless. But being kind and never give up and resilient and trying again, that is the currency of life. And I would say, first of all, thank you. Thank you for all he's done to encourage me. And as I say, that sadness never really goes away. But it's also fuel. It's fuel and it's light. And I still, like with your mum, I know my dad is still on my shoulder. It's part of my faith, is that, the good Lord, it's not the end. I believe in heaven, and therefore I believe my dad is definitely cheering us on, just like your wonderful mum is cheering you on.
think something incredible that you've been able to do is your ability to relate not only to the man on the street, to myself and my family, but also prime ministers, presidents. You've worked with the likes of Barack Obama, Narendra Modi, and some of the most successful people to have ever lived. How do you balance the Bear Grylls on the screen that we all know and love with the Bear Grylls at home with your 3 boys and your wife?
Well, first of all, you're kind to say that. I appreciate it. I think first of all, in my work world like that, it's been a privilege. I never take that access that I've had for granted. It's been a gift. I do feel that. And actually, back to our kind of parents, I kind of feel like my TV break happened a few months after my dad died, really. And I really feel that, those we lose often help us receive these gifts for the next stage of life. And that's why I think I'm excited for your next stage. But I love my work world. It's been, like I say, it's been a privilege. I kind of think I've learned over the years that everyone's a regular person at the end of the day. They might be a prime minister or a president or a big sports star or Hollywood star, but everyone's fighting their own battles. They really are. Everyone, I think it was Plato that said it. So be kind because everyone's fighting their own battle, and it's true. And everyone's a regular person at the end of the day, and life has its pressures, and it's always about relationships. Even if you're a president, it's like, how's your home life at the moment? That's the kind of the big one, isn't it? It's easy to be successful at work, but the relationships to guard in all our lives are the home ones. Those closer to us, our children, our parents, our spouses. So I think I've learned, first of all, everyone's a regular person. And then in terms of me at home, I try and feel I'm the same. I'm probably sillier at home. I'm probably kind of a bit more, maybe a little bit more guarded at work. And also I get into that work mode, I think, when we're filming. Our boys always say, gosh, when you're on TV, you're always very intense and like serious and come on, we got to keep going. And that's because we're probably because I feel a responsibility always for their lives, the person who's with me. Yeah. We are in a jungle or up a mountain, and therefore we're not going to get complacent. We're going to keep moving and keep focused. And, so I probably do have that intensity a little bit. And at home, I'm definitely much kind of like, I'm always putting on silly voices and messing around and having fun. So, but beyond that, we have a few great friends in our lives, and we go off on some mini adventures with the family, but we're pretty quiet as a family. We don't do masses of social stuff. We're not kind of mega into parties and all of that. My sister, who's older, who's much more extrovert than me, she always goes, fame is totally wasted on you. You don't do any of these things that you should be doing.
Well, that was leading into my next question quite nicely, because a recent talk that you gave to Liberty University in the United States, which is a very religious university, but also that comment you made with regard to your sister with fame being wasted on you. I think it's such a pertinent question, because I think for so many people that have achieved, whether it be acting or presenting roles, or even those with wishes to do it, it is for the fame, it is for the parties, it is for the money. Where for you, the more that you've become successful, the more you've actually wanted to be more grounded in your family and the people around you. When you close your eyes and you go to bed at night, why do you think that is? Why do you not think it's another house, another car? And what do you think makes you different to truly care about the people around you rather than some extrinsic thing that everyone else sees?
I think first of all, it's like I've learned over my life the real wealth in our lives can never come from things. I just see it all the time. And the real wealth in our life can only ever be measured in terms of the quality of our relationships, and that takes many forms with those we love, those we work with, our family, the Almighty, all of these things. Those are kind of real things, real relationships. And, and I also have spent a lot of time with very sort of wealthy, in terms of financial success, people who are often really miserable, and can you really say you're wealthy if you have $1 billion in the bank, but your children hate you and you've got 3 divorces behind you and nobody trusts you? It's like, that's not wealth. So I don't know, I've just seen it close up many times, and I think none of us can get complacent with this. And again, everybody listening knows this. They know it at heart. But there's so much pressure in the world always to be charging down the stuff. And that's not bad in itself. Listen, I still have loads of goals. I've just had a great meeting with an hour ago with Jesse, our eldest son, and a boat builder, and we're trying to build a cool boat, and we're doing these. That's not bad. It's great to charge down goals and have aspirations like that. But it's just, where do you build your rock and foundation in your life? And I've learned, if your rock and foundation and identity is wrapped up in things or belongings or stuff, can't take it with you. Hold no value, really. It's just stuff. And likewise, if your identity is like your letters after your name, or the fact you're CEO, or that you're recognized, or you have some level of success or fame, it's like, again, it's never enough. It's like you're filling a hole that is unfillable. It's never going to be enough. It's just not. I see it so much with the fame stuff, with, again, Running Wild. We're about to start season 10 of that show, where we get to take these amazing people away. And, I can't tell you the number of times I kind of see it. I see it in the stars that have learnt this lesson, and sometimes the stars that are still on that journey, but just seeking validation from other people and fame is never enough. It's never like, oh, I've reached it. It's like you're putting the wrong key in the wrong hole. It's just not going to work. It's not going to fit. It's not, and it's got no bottom to it as well. The hole it keeps going out. So I don't know. Again, I think my faith is part of that, of build your life and identity and values on rock rather than on sand. And for me, it's like my identity is always in like who I feel made to be as a man. And I think my faith is part of that. As we're fearfully and wonderfully made and designed to thrive and struggle and go through battles like you have, and through loss. And it's not saying life's going to be easy. You're going to face huge battles, but you're going to be resourced. And that, for me, is what faith is about. It's about being resourced correctly, having good, solid foundations for your life. And then the other stuff takes care of itself. But I think building your identity on your job or stuff or titles or fame is never it never leaves people with a happy heart. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to live, a life of purpose and joy and happiness, and make the world a better place along the way. All of us want that, don't we? And it's like, but what's the route to get there? Choose your path carefully, because the world again says it's all about things, and it's not.
Despite this question, it seems that every couple of years you achieve some incredible thing, whether that being the head of the Scouts, or with venturing, or with helping your family and your children, and being a husband, and your attitude towards God and religion. You have all of these different things. But yet when I listen to a lot of the conversations that you have on podcasts, that you have on TV, it seems that a lot of people still focus on one or two things. You climbing Everest at a young age, or the craziest animal you ever fought. Do you ever feel put in a box?
Maybe a little bit, yeah. I think, and I think sort of it's just life, isn't it? You become known for something, or I think that's part of like achieving stuff. If you win Wimbledon age 18, you're probably going to get asked about that one match or that one final for the rest of your life. Same in your world as a world-class rugby player. You're going to get asked, always about that. But it's like, again, where's your identity? And it's fine to be asked about it. I will always be asked in my life about what's the worst thing I've ever eaten. What's it like drinking my own pee? There's maybe the President Obama episode. there are a few of these. Always asked about breaking my back. Always asked about time in the military, and always asked about Everest. So there are probably 5 things I get asked about every day. And it's like, that's okay. It's okay. Everyone lives busy lives. You get to know someone from TV. But I don't flatter myself that they're that bothered beyond the headlines, and the headlines probably going to be one of those 5 things. And again, if I meet someone in the street, it's probably going to be one of those 5 things. The peace stuff is a big part of that. And probably when I'm 80 years old, those 5 things will still be there. Our boys say this a lot. They go, it's amazing how many journalists, obsessed by the SAS, obsessed by Everest. And it's kind of like, it's fine. But I suppose in terms of kind of pleasure for me, I probably get a little kind of if I'm doing a lot of press, I get a little kind of tired of those sort of things. But I don't mind doing it, so it's fine. But it's much nicer talking about life. I much prefer talking about other people, to be honest. It's why I've loved Running Wild, because it's not me on my own. Remember I did 7 seasons of Man vs. Wild before that, of just one lone man against the wild. Kind of that was the show. And I much prefer running wild because I'm taking rookies and I'm helping them open their eyes, to the amazing outdoors and guiding them through it and seeing them grow. And it's what I've loved in my role of Chief Scout, encouraging young people to go for it in their lives. So I much prefer conversations, where it's more about life rather than kind of just what was that like. And again, it's why I'm much more drawn to do things like this, because you're a real guy and you've already at your young age had a real journey and you're still going through it. And it's like, I'm excited for you. I'm much more excited for you than anything else, because as I said, you've got everything amazing ahead of you. And those last few years of being through, they're going to be they'll be the low point and the struggle for sure, but they're also going to be the making of you. And I don't apologize for saying it again. Your great stuff is all ahead of you, and you deserve it all because you've been through those storms.
I appreciate you saying some very kind words about me. Something that I really appreciate you mentioning is the differentiation between success as a destination versus success as the journey. And although it's a very simple thing to say, people get caught up in the cars, the watches, the followers. And you've even spoken that many of the most successful people you've dealt with are still realizing that that's actually not a destination, but a never-ending goal that keeps moving. And rather it's the family and the people you surround yourself with that's the most important thing. But when people think of Bear Grylls, they see all the incredible successes. They probably look up your net worth, or they look up you climbing Mount Everest, or they look up your family, or whatever it may be. They look at all of these extrinsic levels of success. But despite that, you still have to endure failures through your father, through business ventures that don't go well, through having to be away from your family on a TV show, whatever it may be. What is your attitude towards adversity, and how has it evolved over time?
So first of all, you're right. We all get asked about the headlines. Like I said, the wins, the triumphs, the summits. But our life and our character and the real stories are forged in the valleys. They're not the summits. The summits are a special moment, and they often kind of provide markers through our lives. But our character and our life and our true journey is in the valleys. And, I said this the other day to our three boys again. It's like they've grown up and they've enjoyed and seen the fruit of the good stuff. But behind every win, there's been a catalogue of battles, losses, failures, and just struggles. And I tried to articulate the other day in terms of the TV shows, that they will talk about, or journalists will ask you about certain TV shows, and there's probably like 4 or 5 over the years being the sort of stand-up ones that won. But behind each of those, probably about 5 or 6 more for each of those that have been failed TV shows that have done a season and then got cancelled. Sometimes just done a few episodes and then got cancelled. So, and I listed them all. I actually wrote it out for them. And it really was a case of like, there are probably 20 separate TV shows, not episodes or seasons, separate TV shows that our boys who are close to me, they've grown up with everything, haven't even heard about. They won't even know about these. It's like, because they're the ones that gone and they go. And for every one of the 20 of those, there's like 3 or 4 that have been the winners. But again, your life becomes the wins, but the stories are made through the losses. And the reason I'm actually really proud of those, and I really don't hide away from them, is that they were the stepping stones. They were the doors. It's the only way to get to this summit is over that crevasse, and somebody's down that crevasse and through that avalanche, and some you can swerve, but you're going to get hit a few times. And so I look back on the mountain, I'm going, those were the stepping stones, the doorways, the crevasses, the hard things to get to the good stuff. It's the only way to get to the good stuff. All the good stuff lies on the other side of pain, failure, fear, struggle, doubt, and mistakes. So I look at those things with great pride. I look at them as scars, as markers. They're my rank slides on my arm, because you can't get to this stuff without earning a whole bunch of stripes and taking a few hits and having a few wrinkles and a few scars. So, so my message again for our boys is always that, like, don't just hide. People never talk about their failures as if it somehow makes them vulnerable. But it's like this. I'm way more proud of those, because most people would have given up after. At one point we had like 4 TV shows in a row that were canned and failed. It's like most people would be going, okay, maybe it's just reached the end of the road in this. Maybe it's time to pivot to another career. But it's like, I'm proud of that. That's how. And then that fifth one was a winner and was away, and we did loads of seasons of that shows. It's like you've got to, the rewards in life, they go to the resilient. I've just learnt it. I've seen it. I've seen it myself. I've seen it in so many friends and colleagues and acquaintances' lives. You can't get to the good stuff without the failures. So therefore, seek them out. Go out there, fail 21 times, and you'll get to it. And it's why the rewards go to the dogged. Most people by number 17 are like, they're either down on the knees broken, or they're what do they say? There's only one failure, and that's giving up. And I learned that with the SAS. I mean, I failed SAS selection first time round. Again, people don't know that. They just see the headline. But I failed the first time. 120 of us lined up, and they said there'd be 8 of you at the end of this, and I got about halfway through, just wasn't fit enough, strong enough, smart enough, good enough, but went back, and by the guys that passed with me second time, like 3/4 of them, like out of the 8, like 4 or 5 of them got it second time as well. It's like, second time was the key. It's like the only way to get to the good stuff is through that failure. So I'm very proud of the failures, and I don't run away from them. And I'd hate people to think kind of like the success, you just, it's that schoolboy thing of like, you just care about the wins, and look, you've just gone from success to success. That's not success, and it's not real. The only way to success is like up,
Growing up, I had this belief that everyone was rational, that whenever you bring something up to someone, that you hand them the evidence, put it in front of them, and that they will be able to see your side. But as I've grown up to learn is that people both don't want to look at the facts, but also with the TikTokification of the modern day with social media, people can often get a snippet of something that someone has said and take that at face value instead of getting the underlying evidence. Just like you, I'm religious in my own life. I think faith is one of the only things, whether religious or not, that can get you through tough times, because it's the belief that things will get better even if you don't necessarily know how. But just as there is light, when you've had these incredible feats, there is also darkness. And just as there is love, there is also hate. How have you dealt with the contradicting forces of love and hate from the people around you when you're achieving incredible things, but also going through horrible lows?
What a great question. First of all, we're in a battleground. We're not in heaven. Heaven, I'm sure one day will be perfect and all love. We're not. We're in a world, as you say, that's divided, difficult, full of hate. And it's like, welcome to the battle, But we're also resourced. We're well resourced. As humans, we're designed to thrive. We're designed to come alive in the struggle and the battle. So I think it's kind of like taking on that warrior mantle is good. It's like, I do believe it's how we're designed. We're at our best in the fight. Look at you with your rugby. I look at Huckles, our younger son with his rugby. He's very quiet, but stick him in a maul. He's like you and your brothers. They come alive in the fight. We're designed for struggle. They might not always be winning the ruck, but you come alive in those moments. It's like, it's in here. Spirit is great. So I think, first of all, just accept the world is going to be like that. It's not all going to be roses and, sweet and nice. It's going to be battle. Just embrace that. I think you're so right in the way you say people don't, change their opinion. They don't listen much. But again, I don't think you can fight that. I think you just have to accept people don't listen much. It's very rare to have an argument with someone and they go at the end, no, you're right. You're right. Actually, it's really interesting. You look at all the social media, you look at politics, it's all like very vocal. However logical and good somebody's argument is, nobody ever goes, that's great. They just become very entrenched. And I think sort of accepting that's how people are, I think it leads us in terms of our character, and for you and your family and me and my family, is try and have that aspiration, which you guys do, of having respect at the heart of how we approach relationships, and being a good listener, and actually being willing to change. I've been wrong so many times. I actually quite like being disproved in things. I really actually don't have a problem with listening to somebody and going, that's kind of right. I kind of get it. And I'm really actually quite enjoy that. So, but I think it does come from a place of respect for all of us to try and be good listeners and be willing to be wrong and to change and improve. I mean, Churchill said it really well. He said to improve is to change, which is a great quote, really. He actually took it a stage further, and then he has a Churchillian ending, and he goes, to be perfect is to change often. So he takes it to the next stage. But he's kind of right. Like, if we're going to improve in life, how do you improve? You have to change. That is what, it's a change of affairs, isn't it? That's how we improve. So I think being open to that, but rooted in respect, accept that the world is going to be light and dark. And our own journeys of faith will have doubt as well. Two sides of the same coin, faith and doubt. Accepting all of that, but then embracing that warrior spirit inside.
I think something that's made you so grounded and is not necessarily a nicety, but more of a necessity, is the emphasis on family. You're talking about many successful people have achieved all these great things, but they don't have that grounded perspective. So it's almost these two things, the intrinsic and the extrinsic, the aspirational, the dreams, the hopes, the desires that you do in your life, but also the groundedness with family and with loved ones. On that point, I would argue, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that one of your greatest successes is not anything that you do, but rather that you pass on to your three boys. What are some of the biggest successes and failures that you've dealt with in your own life that you want to pass on to your three sons?
That it's all about relationships, quality of relationships. Charge down your goals for sure, but guard, number one, your family and your close relationships. And that takes many forms for people. It's not always like the family you're born with. That can be difficult for people sometimes. But we all create our own families. But just guard that first in your life, and then build the rest around it, rather than kind of like build these big walls of your life, but the foundations are shaky, and then as soon as the earthquake comes, the whole thing falls down. And that's what happens, So I think get your foundations right, and know that family and close friends and your relationships are great foundations, and faith, and then build the walls. Go out there and conquer the world and do great things. If you ask that question to our boys, what has your dad always said to you every day of his life? It would probably be rooted in the three things: the courage, kindness, and never give up. Because that's always mattered to me much more than being first at school or being in the top team or getting an A grade. It's like this thing of the currency of school is always about academics, sports, and good looks. If you're good looking and sporty and academic, you're a hero. But like, life doesn't care. It has no currency, those things in life. The currency is your courage, your kindness, and your never give up spirit. It's why in life the resilient always win. So I've said to our boys since they were little, what is courage? Walking towards the difficult stuff, being scared of stuff, but walking towards it. That is courage. Quietly, humbly, doing the difficult. Kindness is no good being a sporting, rugby legend and being arrogant. You undermine all your success. If you super successful in life, but you're an asshole, you have it means nothing. It means nothing. And then ultimately be that never give upper, and our boys, again, when they were little, they'd roll their eyes when I say, come on, never give up. I've heard it 1,000 times, but it's like, I don't apologize for it, because it's going to be the most important thing in your life. That's what I'd say to them. At school and beyond school, the resilient will win.
I don't know whether it's a symptom of more social media, with media being distributed 24/7 on our phones, getting popped up with constant notifications, but it always seems like the world is going to pot. And so I think that religion in times of crisis has gone up because people have wanted faith in order to get through it. But it seems that Christianity in the UK has fallen, other religions are rising, but it also seems that it's either an either or. It has to be Christianity or Islam, or Christianity versus nothing. Why is writing the book, The Greatest Story Ever Told, so important for you?
Because it's changed my life so much. I think I grew up with such a sanitized version of who this guy was. And my version of going to school and having to do church every day, Christ was always very formal. And I think just the more I learned, I realized, hold on, this if he's real, and if it's true, if this is sort of God come down as man to restore us and to bring us life and freedom and forgiveness and power and purpose, and to make us into that warrior for good, that's a life-changing. If it's true, it's unbelievable. If it's not true, it's the greatest hoax in the history of the world. which is why I call the book The Greatest Story Ever Told. It's not maybe the greatest story. If it's true, it's the greatest story because it affects all of our lives, all of our futures, all of our aspirations, how we do life and relationships and risk and confidence and ultimately our ultimate future. So I don't know. I also see the effect this book is having on, I've done lots of kind of TV shows and stuff over the years, but the thing people talk to me now about more than anything else is this, because, and I get emails and messages from every country, every culture, every faith, and they basically always say the same thing, which is I had no idea of the real story. And a lot of us, when it comes to Christianity, we know stories, like the Good Samaritan or the Nativity or the crucifixion, but the whole story itself is like so incredible in terms of risk and adventure and friendship and love and sacrifice. It's and it changes lives. So in truth, I'm much more proud of this than anything else because it's not about me. It's about all of our lives, all of our stories wrapped up in his story. That is history, his story. So, and that's actually why faith, and especially Christianity, is actually growing so much. It's not actually true that Christianity is declining and other ones are going. It's actually, there's been an unprecedented rise and resurgence in Christianity across the world, which is amazing. I mean, you only have to look into this. Some of the unbelievable stories of Christian churches in Iran and places, and China. They reckon by 2035, China will be the biggest Christian country in the world, in a country where it's outlawed. It's a pretty crazy stat. So, and why is that? I don't know. I think what you said is part of it, is that in times of turmoil, people want security, but I think it's more than that. It's like a compass. It's like a magnet. It's like I feel our hearts will always be restless until they find home. And we look for home in many different things. And then we learn, hold on, that's not where to look for it. And we try this. Hold on, that's not where to look. And eventually we find the right one. And that's what I see faith doing for people all over the world. And that's good.
I guess within a short period of time, I found success as Bear Grylls and both Churchill say it, in that I've made a mistake and be able to learn from it with regard to Christianity. My penultimate question with regard to faith is, I often think in my own life, it's not what you think, it's not what you say, it's what you do. What is your ambition from this book in terms of what people can actually do, having read it, to make the world a better place?
Yeah, so true. And ultimately, the heart of Christianity is just about love. It's loving each other and have that love of the Almighty in your heart. The rest is window dressing. It doesn't require you to, be a massive churchgoer or sort of, read the Bible every day. Or those are all rules. Faith is, Christianity is about love. And finding that purpose and then going for things, and just being, like I said, being brave and being kind and loving our neighbour along the way and being connected to something greater than ourselves. So, that's my hope, is that people kind of find that without the, necessarily the religion side of it. Because, it's a great quote that says, Jesus came to destroy religion and bring life. And you could write a lot of thesis about that quote, really. And it takes some thinking about. But it's actually true. It was never about the rules and the formalities. It's about bringing freedom and life. And that can be a life journey to understand. And in terms of actions, you are so right as well. I mean, it reminds me of, there's a really beautiful quote, I think, by St. Augustine. When was he around? 600 AD or something? 1200? I don't know. He said something like, and this is a paraphrase, but he said, preach the gospel of Christ every day to all people in all places. Where necessary, use words. And that's the heart, really, of Christianity. Is it doesn't need words. It's actions. It's how do you interact with people? How do you love people? How do you the unlovable? And always about love.
And my final question, and I ask this to every guest on Personable, is what is one thing that you would want a listener to take away from this episode?
That your life is a place of great power. Wherever you are right now, whether you feel it a dead end thing, whether you're having struggles or battles, your life has so much power. The fact that you're up, it's like you're this ball of power and energy. And it sometimes takes a while to realize that, but don't be embarrassed by that. Embrace that and realize you've got a warrior spirit inside, and don't be scared, therefore, to go for things and 10 times those dreams. And why not? And if you're not scared of failing anymore, and you've worked out how to deal with fear by being courageous and going towards it, and you've got a never give up spirit, there's no limit to what you can do. Why not go for things? So many of us are held back by that fear of other people, other people's opinions, the dream stealers out there who are going to laugh. But if you can hold those things lightly and not at all, let them go, and just go for things and fail, and you will get there. With a never give up spirit, you'll get there. And even if you don't, it's like you're living, you're thriving, you're fighting, you're struggling, you're failing, you're getting back up. It's like life is such a privilege. Humanity's never had this opportunity like we have now. And therefore it's a gift, and go for it, and know the power of never give up.
When I was thinking about how to make the most of a Bear Grylls episode, so the image of Bear Grylls and not necessarily the person that I know and care about, I look at all these other podcasts and they've all focused on the what. They focused on those 5 things: the urine, the Everest, the SAS. And my goal from this conversation was not to focus on the what. It was to focus on the who. It was to focus on the Bear Grylls as a young man who had lost his father, the Bear Grylls who late at night is worried and wanting the best for his children and for his family and for his partner, the Bear Grylls that tells his older sister, hey, I know I have fame, but that's not the point. The Bear Grylls that speaks to some of the most respected and successful people on the planet and is actually like, that is not my dream. My dream is to be grounded in my family. A year and a half ago, we initially met, and you gave me 3 pieces of advice. This was the 15th of June, 2024. So I've
here we go.
Got it noted.
What did I say?
Bear Grylls podcast advice. And you told me, and I haven't followed any of this, so maybe I've screwed it up. You told me, don't be afraid of silence, make statements, and you don't have to ask a question the whole podcast. So this is a note I kept a year and a half ago from you.
There you go. Well, you've done it. Don't be afraid. We've had beautiful conversations. We haven't really talked about any of those 5 things, and it's good because that's what a conversation should be. And I think you've done the interview just brilliantly. I mean, I can tell you are better than an awful lot of just chat show hosts on TV who basically will bring every story back to themselves in some way, like a sort of response of, and it's very tempting. But again, I've learnt on Running Wild, and we had this conversation. I remember that conversation we had there. But you don't need to ask a lot of questions. You can sometimes put statements out, which is like what you've done, saying failures is key to life, I guess. And then the person takes it and where they want. And I think you've done it really well. And you're just getting better and better. I've watched through your podcast. You're getting better and better. And you have now the freedom. You can pick whether this wants to be a part of your future, who knows? If you do, you're going to do it brilliantly. You're already doing it brilliantly. I know you're such a brilliant rugby player. Maybe that's still part of it. You're doing brilliantly at Duke, and that will lead you many avenues. Maybe the challenging thing for you would be like, which of these is really on my heart? What do I really want to follow? But like I say, you've been in those battles of life, and therefore you're learning your weaponry. And you're going to make great decisions. And so much of life is making good decisions along the way. The little decisions make up our lives. So you got it all. You're doing brilliantly.
For me, I know that you're later in life and have achieved much more extrinsic success than me. My view on what it means to be successful is to meet great people. Be a housekeeper. It could be the man working in a restaurant. It could be Bill Gates. Whoever it is, I think it is meeting great people like yourself that enable you to become a better person. And I wrote you a card, which I guess you'll see afterwards. But my focus when I met Bear Grylls, I was expecting this man that had no time for anyone, this man that was this incredible celebrity that's lived 10 incredible careers 10 times over. But yet, it's Bear Grylls at the heart that makes Bear Grylls who he is. It's not the what, it's the why. And I feel honored that you gave me the opportunity to have you on my podcast. I know that you don't do this a lot. I hope that this is a platform that other people will listen to this and feel inspired to do great things just as you have done, and just as you've inspired me to do the same. So thank you.
I appreciate it, Harvey. Thank you. What a great man you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Bear. That was awesome.
Awesome. Give us a hug. Well done. Well done, you.
I appreciate it.
I loved it. And look, we've had a good time. We've covered everything.